Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, it's after 12. Late last year, Diane approached Doug and I and asked us if we would like to talk about cars. When she asked me if we would like to talk about cars today, it was just her and I said to her, cars? I mean, that encompasses many major topics. What do you have in mind? We certainly don't want to put anyone to sleep today, so I don't remember your exact words, but it was like, figure it out. So okay. The title of this talk is The Love of the Automobile. Now, in the program in church Sunday, I saw vintage wheels, and it will have a heavy vintage wheels content, but it's the love of the automobile because everyone that we will talk about today, you can see a certain love of what they do shine through, a certain passion. You will perceive that. We're going to start at the very beginning, the very early history of what planted the seed which grew to what we now know of the automobile industry. It started in the late 1700s. There was a push, a movement to replace steam power. Something smaller, lighter, more convenient, more economical, something that you could just start right up and go. Now, they had steam vehicles back then, but they were, I mean, can you imagine driving your car down Woodward with coal burning in a furnace and boiling water? It's a pain. It's pain. So, okay. And this mostly started in Europe. People were coming up with these contraptions, combustion engines, fueled by some type of petroleum product. And this attempt to come up with something, went into the 1800s. Many people invented some kind of a combustion engine. But they were not reliable. In fact, many of them were unsafe. They blew up. This continued until 1861. There was a man, a German engineer, Nicholas Otto. He was born in Holzhausen, Germany, 1832. He died in 1891. He only lived 59 years. And he invented the internal combustion engine in 1861, and after testing and getting a patent, it was patented in 1863. It proved to be very reliable and offered the first practical alternative to the steam engine as a power source. Okay, this is 1863. So, years later, there was a guy who learned of Nicholas Otto's invention, and he built his own version of an internal combustion engine and mounted it into a three-wheeled vehicle. That man, Karl Benz, he was born 1844 in Karlsruhe, Germany. He died in 1929. And in 1885, he built the world's first practical automobile powered by an internal combustion engine. This is a photo of it. So, okay, now that's 1885. About the same time, there was another man far away from Karlsruhe who did the same thing. He built his version of an internal combustion engine And that man, Gottlieb Daimler, a German engineer. He was born in 1834 in Schorndorf, Germany, and died in 1900. And he adapted his engine to the world's first four-wheeled automobile, 1886. Now, this is a picture of his vehicle, and what I think is he went into the barn, he dragged out one of his carriages, told the horses to chill out, and he mounted his engine in the back seat. But it's a four-wheel automobile, 1886. I think it's very cool.
That's a horseless carriage.
It's a horseless carriage. You are correct.
I knew it was coming.
Yeah, okay. All right, now.
Is this still four-stroke engines here?
Yes, four-cycle, four-stroke. In fact, let's go back and talk about this engine. Can I explain how the engine works? It's not too boring. Okay, you are correct. It's a four-stroke, four-cycle engine where you have a piston that slides back and forth in a cylinder. The piston sucks in the fuel. It's the first cycle. The piston compresses the fuel. Second cycle, there's a spark and an explosion. The explosion drives back the piston. Third cycle. And then the piston shoves out the exhaust. Fourth cycle, and it's repeatable. Four-stroke, four-cycle engine. The engineering textbooks refer to this concept as the Otto cycle. How many here have heard that name, Otto, Nicholas Otto? Yeah, Jeff. Yeah, not many. This guy, I mean, look what he gave the world. Look what this started. I mean, I think he is very, very under-recognized. This is a schematic of his engine. This is another schematic of an internal combustion engine, and you can see the piston sliding in the cylinder, intake, compression, power, exhaust. This engine is currently used in the Ford F-150 pickup truck. A different design, but the identical principle, the identical concept, 162 years later. I think what he did is amazing. Okay.
So that was two pistons in there?
Pardon?
Were there two pistons in the old engine?
I think his first engine was a one-cylinder, just like Benz and Daimler. And this is a V8, by the way. Okay. Okay, so Carl Benz and Gottlieb Daimler, they found out about each other in 1886 and 1885, and there is a lot of history between these two guys, too numerous to mention. They fought each other. They feuded. They lodged lawsuits against each other. This went on for years. And finally, the two families got together. They called a truce, and they formed the Daimler-Benz Motor Car Company in 1926. And from that point forward, the automobile industry in Germany and Europe just grew immensely. Okay, so let's come across the Atlantic to the United States. And there was another man who learned of the happenings in Germany, and he built his version of the internal combustion engine and mounted it into a four-wheeled vehicle. That man Henry Ford.
Oh, already, 'cause I thought there was.
Mr. Ford was born in 1863 in Spring Wells, Michigan. He died in 1947 in Dearborn. And he mounted his engine in a four-wheel cart called the quadricycle. He built them, he sold them, and finally in 1903 he formed and incorporated the Ford Motor Company. And there were 52 car companies within the city limits of Detroit before World War I. Manufacturing took off, and Doug will talk about manufacturing. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I have a little introduction. My name is Doug Martens, and I have a 1948 Plymouth.
Yeah.
And I've had it about 10 years. But what happened to me, I found a passion about learning about the history of the automobile. And one of the places that I went to early on was the Ford Paquette plant in Detroit. And it just caught my eye. I went to a wedding reception at this facility. Our neighbor's daughter got married, and the reception was at the Paquette plant. Now, I don't know if anybody's been there. I have a feeling that Senior Adventures went, and I don't know, I'm sure some of you people maybe went to that, but it's a very interesting place. It's got this old elevator. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Just seeing the elevator is worth the admission. But it's a really neat place. It's been completely restored. They replaced all the windows. They just do a great job there. The dozens are really, really good. And if you haven't been there, you might think about going. It's Boulevard, Woodward Avenue, John R., that area. So let me just talk a little bit about a place called, or an area called Milwaukee Junction. Milwaukee Junction is in that area where the Paquette plant was built. Why is it called Milwaukee Junction? Because there's a street called Milwaukee, but there's also a junction with railroad lines there.
Oh.
And it made it very efficient for people that were getting started in the automobile business to be able to ship their parts and their cars out of that location. Okay, so it's referred to as the cradle of the Detroit auto industry. This is back in the early 1900s. Okay. Fisher Body had 2 plants in that area, but there was many more. Cadillac was there. The Dodge brothers were there. Huff, Packard, Oakland, which I think Ken eventually got to be Pontiac. Is that right?
Yeah.
Studebaker, and of course, Ford Motor Company. Now, Henry Ford built this facility. I think it was built in 1904. He had a lot of different models there, all kinds of the B, the C, the F, the K, the N, the R, the S, and the T. Okay, so a car that we know a little bit about is the Model T, and that's where the Model T was born. He produced the Model T in this facility. The first Model Ts were made in this facility. Of course, you know the story. He outgrew this building very quickly, and then he moved to Highland Park, where it was the beginning of the assembly line, right? $5 a day. Brian, you remember working there for $5 a day. You were really happy, right? I know.
Is that 1860?
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I think he when did he move out of there? Maybe 2011 or so. Yeah, 2011. And they sold the plant to Studebaker, and Studebaker was there until 1933. So, but there were so many suppliers and companies in that area. It was just amazing. If you go to the facility, they'll talk about all the different suppliers that were in that 5-block, 6-block, 7-block area. It's just amazing how the American automobile industry began at that spot. Prior to that, prior to Henry Ford building that plant, he rented a facility on Mack Avenue, and he outgrew that quickly and then built this plant. So that is just something I picked up after I bought my car, got interested in the automobile industry at an early age, and I've really enjoyed it. A couple other things I want to talk to you about here briefly too. I've gone to a lot of different museums too, and I really had a chance to enjoy them. There's a museum in, it's called the Gilmore, and it's just north of Kalamazoo. It's a huge spread out of buildings and cars and all kinds of things. If you have a chance, go to that area, take a look at it. It's really cool. I think Stahl's Museum, did you go to Stahl's Museum? Fantastic place. Great cars from early 1900s right up through the 40s and the 50s. Very interesting place. And they have some great organs there too, by the way. Oh, they're fantastic. Just unbelievable. So I've done that, been to both of these places. Also been to REO's in Lansing, Wills in St. Clair, Michigan. Did I pronounce that right? Wills? Ken?
I'm not sure.
No, okay, well anyway. I think, yeah, that's in St. Clair. Lynn and I took a trip to Fort Wayne in Auburn, Indiana, just to see the Studebaker Museum and the Duesenberg, Auburn, and Cord Museum, which is fantastic. My favorite car, the Duesenberg. Just fantastic, really, really cool. So anyway, that's my story a little bit. I'm going to come on here a little bit later. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with my car, but I just want to put a little bit of emphasis on what they call Milwaukee Junction. So I'll hand it over to Ken from here for now.
Yeah, thanks, Doug.
Back and forth.
Okay, so we talked about Henry Ford, and he basically kicked off the automobile industry in this country at least. And I just want to go back to Nicholas Otto one more time to emphasize how significant his invention was of the internal combustion engine. There were two guys. They lived in Dayton, Ohio, and they built and sold bicycles. Those two guys were brothers. Orville Wright, he was born in 1871. He died in 1948. Wilbur Wright, he was born in 1867. He died in 1912. Their business was building and selling bicycles. However, they were enthralled with flight. They built gliders. They learned of the happenings in Germany, and at the time they were aware of what Henry Ford was doing. So in their little bicycle shop, they built their version of the internal combustion engine. They mounted it in one of their gliders. And in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina in 1903, it flew. First manned aircraft flight in the world. Does anyone know what industry that kicked off? Anybody? The aircraft industry. which is a pretty good size industry, I'd say, today, you know? So that's why I said earlier that Nicholas Otto was so terribly under-recognized. And I have a thought about that. You know how we have the heads of 4 presidents carved on the side of Mount Rushmore? I think years ago, the Germans should have carved Nicholas Otto's head on the side of some Alpine mountain in Germany. Now that's just my thought. Didn't read that anywhere, but okay. Now, one other thing before we move on. To the ladies here. All we've talked about are men doing stuff. Men. I'm not a chauvinist, but it's history. And I strongly believe that all these guys could not have done what they did without the support of their wives. I truly believe that. And a little bit later, I will offer a little bit of proof to substantiate what I just said. Okay, the love of the automobile. Most people like cars to some degree. There's people who have a passive interest. There's some who have an active interest. There are some who have an active involvement. And there are some who have a real embedded passion. Now, there is another category, not on the chart, which is here, people who do not like cars. I know a couple of them. They might own a car, but only to get from point A to point B. But I think most people have, to some degree, an interest in the automobile. Like the passive interest people, they're curious, they're observant. They'll certainly note a new model coming out in a beautiful color or a very ugly color. They might even enjoy shopping for a new automobile. And then the people with an active interest, they like reading about cars, reading a review of a new model. They like the history of it. They might like driving for pleasure, take the family out on a nice Sunday afternoon for ice cream. They might like washing and waxing their car, and maybe even once in a while, they might enjoy going to a car show, like the Woodward Dream Cruise, for example. Then we have the people with an active involvement. They really like cars. They probably own an old car. They don't necessarily restore their cars or repair them, but they love the ownership. They like going to car shows. They really like the club membership. If you own an old car, you probably will belong to a car club associated with that brand, and that is an opportunity for their wives or partners or significant others to enjoy the hobby. These car clubs have wonderful parties, activities, events, cruises. It's really a lot of fun. And this, Doug, this is where you belong.
Is that right?
Yeah. Now,
To the right?
right here, you're an active involvement person. You are an active vintage wheels person. Do you want to, for a couple of minutes, talk about your club experience?
Glad to. Glad to. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. This is the Plymouth Club Bulletin. Used to come out every month. Now it comes out quarterly. And I belong to this Plymouth Owners Club. I'm not as active as some people. They do a lot of things on Sunday, and of course I'm at worship on Sunday. And so anyway, I just pass it along, and there's cars in there and different things going on. So I guess, 10 years, 11 years ago, my friend bought this car. And it was a 1948 Chrysler. And it didn't look very nice, kind of a matted finish on the paint. The headliner was really dirty and worn. The seats weren't great. It was a really low rider, but I really liked the look at it, the look of it. It looked kind of gangster, and I liked that a little bit. And, it was just maybe just a little bit different than the Dream Cruise cars, a lot of 50s cars and Dream Cruise and so forth. So I started looking. I thought, I'd like to get a car. I'd like to get a vintage car. I didn't know what it was. I've always been a General Motors guy my whole life, right? But I just something that but anyway, I ran into this car, and it was out in Heartland someplace. I went out there, and I've been looking for cars for a short period of time. Never planned to buy anything, not really. I didn't know how much they were, and I didn't know if I wanted to spend any money doing something like that. So I looked at it, and it had a nice paint job, and I heard about the history of the car, this and that, and I came back. I said, hey, I just looked at a 1948 Plymouth, really nice paint job. Looks like a really nice car, but it's sat for years and years. And my friend said to me, well, did you buy it? And I said, no, I didn't buy it. I said, I really don't know if I want to pay for a car. And then I thought about it, and I said, yeah, why not? I wanted to buy this car. So make a long story short, I bought the car. I had it hauled to Roseville, where I found a mechanic that would work on this car, because I'm not a mechanic. And I've never done anything like that before. So that was part of the plan, is to have someone that could work on this car for me. So anyway, it turned out well. He got the car running the way it should be. Dropped all the fluids, did everything they had to do. So it's worked out real well. What other things about my experience? We go to a few car shows. We go to on the Friday, Ken, before the Dream Cruise. At the park, is it Friday?
A&W Parade. The Berkeley Parade.
Excuse me. That's the Berkeley Parade, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we've signed up for the Berkeley Parade and been there the last few years. I got maybe 7 T-shirts, that they don't wear. And that's kind of a fun thing. It's you park your cars at the cemetery there, and they go on a parade down 12 Mile Road. But what I like about it, you get to see a lot of cars and walk up to them. It's kind of cool, I really enjoyed that. And I do a little thing with Ken the past few years, the week before. And I go to a couple shows, or would take my car to a show, sometimes in Troy, sometimes it would be in Clawson, not too far away. They don't drive it real far. So, that's the sort of thing we do. And just talk about my club a little bit. We have monthly meetings. I don't attend a lot of them, but I try to do the best I can. We have these big shows every 4 years. It could be at the Gilmore. We've had them in Northville. They even had it in Port Huron, a few years back. So that's my involvement with cars. And I got to tell you, I have a friend that lives just down the street from me. He's got a couple cars. And it's amazing. He says, there's cars all over that are just in the garage, old cars, and you never knew that they were there. And I found a lot of people in my travels in my neighborhood that have cars, beautiful cars in their garage. So that's my experience with being an owner of an older car. So thank you very much.
Does your wife get to drive the car?
She said she was going to drive it. Okay, it doesn't have power steering. You remember when you had cars without power steering, didn't you? You didn't have any. No. Anyway, it doesn't have power steering. She elects not to drive it.
Didn't have power steering.
Huh?
I had a Chevette that didn't have power steering.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. This turd's hard.
Yeah.
Hey,
I was wondering if your research, if you went to the Detroit Public Library, they have a very good section,
yeah.
and if you didn't go, I would urge you to
Yeah.
go. I've looked at it.
I did, in fact.
Okay, the last level of interest is an embedded passion. These people, they restore their cars, they build cars, they probably own several. They like to innovate, design, fabricate. They belong to car clubs. They enjoy the social aspect. They go to car shows, swap meets, and they visit too many junkyards. This is me. I don't apologize for this. I've been there probably since I was a kid. So, okay, now we're going to see some photos of vintage wheels. We're going to see a few cars that I recently owned. We're going to see some photos of vintage cars that I currently own, and then we're gonna see a condensed photo history of the last car that I built from scratch, from the ground up. Okay, we had this car, 1937 Chevy. It's a street rod. The exterior is original except for the wheels, and it's a street rod because although it's an original 37 Chevy, it has a big V8 hot rod motor in it. I think this car had 400 horsepower. That's the motor. It's a 350 Chevy engine with 3 carburetors, had an automatic transmission. And unfortunately, we were stopped on Hatchery Road waiting to make a left-hand turn, and a kid texting in a pickup truck rammed us from the back. He was running 55 miles an hour, did not touch the brakes, and the car was totaled. Car's gone. Okay, I had a 1955 Corvette. The first Corvette was 1953, and the 53 and 4 Corvettes had 6-cylinder engines. The 55 Corvette was the first Corvette with a V8 engine, and when I got the car, it was quite authentic, but my very, very good friend here, Jeff Sauls, who owns an old Corvette, he is a Corvette expert. We spent 2 summers together, and he guided me, he helped me bring it up to a 97.8% level of authenticity. I had it judged by the National Corvette Restorer Society, NCRS, and it received a top flight award, 97.8% authentic. So that was kind of fun. And the back has the styling of this car has a rocket jet plane theme. You could see the jet plane air intake, the rocket tail lights with the little fins, the turbine wheel covers. Pretty cool car. The first V8 engine, 265 cubic inches. I bought a 57 Chevy, partially restored, of which I completed the restoration on it. And it really came out nice. I'm not a award trophy seeker. I'm really not. But the car, I went car show nuts on this one, and it won a lot of awards on it. And I don't do that anymore, by the way. But anyway, this car really turned out very, very nice, and I thought it was award worthy. I had a 1966 Corvette. I bought 4,000 parts in 50 boxes in the early 90s. And I had a guy in Port Austin, Merle Adams. He is a Corvette restorer. He restored that car. His shop is now in Traverse City. But he did a really nice job on that car. It's got a 427 motor. That's my shop where we live. It's 427, 425 horsepower. Pretty hot in 1966. I used to clear my own snow. I don't anymore, but I used this 1967 Ford tractor to plow the snow. And it could have probably knocked a house over if I wanted to. It was an overkill. I no longer have that tractor. Jeff and I drove to Sarnia, a little outside of Sarnia, Canada, to a farm, and this farmer had it, and it was, he said he only used it for his garden, not to plow his fields, and it was, I mean, it extremely clean, nice condition. In fact, when we were coming home from, remember, Jeff, when we were coming home from Sarnia, we were stopped, and they found little pieces of mud stuck to the tires. Oh, you're bringing bovine back into the U.S.? Well, how long did we sat there? Half a day.
They want to know if it was American mud or Canadian mud.
So they called this agriculturalist to the customs place there, and he spent 2 hours analyzing the mud. And he said, you don't have any bovine in the mud, you can go. Well, we could have taken it to a quarter car wash, right? Okay, cars that I currently own. This is a 1941 Lincoln Continental convertible. It's got 72,000 miles, and I bought it. Oh, and okay, we'll talk about Jeff again. He's my good dear friend, car guy. We worked the past week and a half. I think we've got 45 hours. We restored the top mechanism, and the top, for the first time in I don't know how many years, the top now goes up and down. It's a really nice car, though. Very clean, low mileage. It's got leather interior. It's got a V12 engine. This is our 1955 T-Bird. It's Ford's first Thunderbird, 1955, and this has a removable hardtop, and it also has a folding top, convertible top that you could put up and down. That's the interior. And then I have a 1956 Chevy Bel Air four-door sedan, and this basically was your typical family sedan of the 50s. You put 6 people there. You could put 7 kids in the back seat in this car. It's got a giant trunk. It's got a 265 engine. And this is the last car that I built. It's my third 1940 Ford. It's a deluxe coupe. This is a little bit more than just taking an original antique car and throwing a big motor in it. It's really pretty well high tech. It's got a big block Chevy engine. It's got power steering, power brakes, power windows. It's got power seats. It has push button shift. It has computer-controlled electronic fuel injection. It has AM/FM stereo. It has navigation, Bluetooth, backup camera, front camera. A little bit more than a street rod. Some people call this level resto mod. Now, I did not do the interior. A friend of mine, Skip Starbird, did the material, and unfortunately, he recently passed away. But he was an incredible upholstery artist. This is the trunk, and he tried to, with stitching, replicate the grille and the 2 headlights, which are the trunk lights. It's got a 502 big block motor. Okay. I bought the car in Hershey, Pennsylvania, from the world's biggest swap meet. And this is what it looked like coming home from Hershey. Basically a bare bones, totally gutted body shell sitting on a rolling frame. The seller told me, I can't substantiate it, the seller told me that he was told this was a rum runner that transported moonshine from Dawsonville, Georgia, down Highway 400 to Atlanta. And Dawsonville is the birthplace of NASCAR. And there were shops in Dawsonville that would take your car and double the horsepower, and I'm sure the feds could not catch that car back in the 40s. Totally rust-free, and my guess is the car was probably parked during World War II, and it sat there until the person I bought it from bought it. And I just want to give you a thought. The guy I bought it from, he had it for years. He never touched it. And I got from him, and I've heard this story before, I got from him that his wife finally told him, the car goes or I go. So he probably thought about that for 3 or 4 weeks, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Okay, all right, so the body is mounted on 4 bicycles. Easy to roll in and out of the garage, and the bicycles straddle the chassis, so everything takes up one spot. You can see the car, the body, out on the lawn, doing body work and priming. Here's the car painted. And here's what I was telling you. This is the restored chassis, and you can see how the bicycles will roll right over the chassis, and they both take up one spot in the garage. It saves space. Okay. This is the body set back on the frame, and Jeff, my good friend, he comes over and he helped me put the body back on the frame, what a task. I mean, we had to raise it off the bicycles and set it back down, 22 body mounts, getting them all lined up. Not easy, but there's the body back on the frame. And this is a little innovative thing. It's a 4-bar linkage attached to the left tail light so that you can put the fuel in that flapper valve. Just stick your nozzle in there and let it go, and it seals itself. That's a shot of the instrument panel back in the car. That is one of the headlight buckets being restored. This is part of the wiring harness right there. This just shows some of the wiring going on. The most difficult, the most time-consuming and tedious task of this entire 5.5-year project, the wiring. That is the electronics of building a car is the most is the greatest challenge. There's some more wiring. That's a shot of the engine. That's the front end accessory drive. This is the transmission bolted up to the assembled engine, and we were hooking it onto the engine hoist there on the left. That's power steering cooler, heater hoses. That's the engine hooked up to the hoist. Okay, time to put the engine in the car. Now, my very good friend over there, Dave Ruby, who owns this beautiful 57 Corvette sitting out there. Dave, very good dear friend of mine, he helps me a lot. He came over, and the objective that day was to stuff the engine into the car. Should have had a giant shoehorn, but... So we worked and we tried and we wiggled and pushed and shoved, and it wouldn't go. It wouldn't go in. So Dave went home, and I'm scratching my head, and to make a long story short, adjustments were made, tweaking was done, and ready to try it again. And okay, so I think Dave was not available. I don't remember, but the engine was ready to go in, and remember I said that men really can't do great things without the support of their wives. Remember I said that? Okay. Well, I had some help to put the engine in. My wonderful wife, Wendy, came out, and we tried. We got the engine in. So there's Wendy. So we hooked everything up, the drive shaft, the fuel line, and the car drove out of the garage for the first time in 80 years maybe. It's the first time it drove. So that basically, other than the hood, was the car just about 100% complete. My friend, I mentioned my friend Skip, the late Skip Starbird, who did the upholstery, and it's the artistry of it, I thought, was just incredible. It was a beautiful job that he did. Okay, now the car's completed. So we pulled it out on the driveway in front of the house, and my son was over. I wanted to take a picture. Okay, by the way, these pictures should have been earlier. When you build a car, you have to apply open cell polyurethane foam sound absorption and a heat protection foil. This was a tedious job because you cut these sheets out, peel off the back, and stick it to the sheet metal. It's a back-breaking job. And this is me in the trunk rolling this stuff on the sheet metal, on the floorboard. Okay, the car's finished. My oldest son is over, so Wendy takes a picture of us on our driveway in front of the house, he and I, next to the completed vehicle. Now, this is my third 1940 Ford Coupe. It is my most favorite pre-war Ford body style. I just love the styling. My second one that I did, I took a picture, the same place, front of the house, on my driveway, completed restoration. It was an original car, was complete, but so it was an authentic restoration, not a street rod. So again, Wendy took a picture of myself with my second 1940 Ford and Kenny. There he is. I just thought this was cute to show this. Okay, well, this concludes the talk. We'll be very happy to answer questions.
On the older cars, do you have to use leaded gasoline? Which you can't really.
Well, okay. If it is an antique engine that's been in the car and it's got miles on it, no, unless you're going to drive it 100,000 miles, because it has a coating of the lead on the valves. But if it is a rebuilt antique engine and you don't use modern day valves and componentry, yes, you have to buy a bottle of additive. But when you rebuild an antique motor today, you buy componentry that does not require it. However, in my vintage cars, I do not use ethanol gas. I buy only real gas, no ethanol. It's more expensive, but it's less harmful. You get more power, it's better economy. Oh, she asked, do you have to use leaded gas? Did you get my answer?
Yes.
Should I repeat the answer? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Lead, the reason for lead is it coats the componentry of the engine, especially the valves. If it does not have this coating on an antique component, the valves will burn over time. So you need lead. But an old car with miles on it has this coating already on the componentry, on the valves. So you don't have to use leaded gas unless you're going to drive the car 100,000 miles or more. Yes?
What was the background of the man that did your upholstery, that he knew how to do that? That he worked for an automotive company in that field?
Okay, he, in the early years, he worked for a restoration shop that did upholstery, and he learned the trade in this shop, which was not the main thing that this shop did. They restored cars, they repaired cars, and he got so good at it that people would ask him, hey, on the side, would you upholster my antique car? And he started his business in Brighton. And he had a very, very successful business, but he died way too young, unfortunately.
Fantastic job.
When you have a car on the road that's an older car, are there the same stipulations as far as seat belts and safety things that have to be in the cars now?
No. What Michigan allows is that whatever is on the car when it was built is allowed. Now, I don't agree with that. I believe that every antique car should have shoulder belts, but we don't require it here. You need shoulder belts because if you get into a head-on collision and your torso is not constrained, your head will smash against the instrument panel and blow up like a watermelon. But otherwise, you don't need to do anything with the car.
So if you change that and you put a seat belt in, does it then change the I don't know.
Authenticity? Yes, it does. And a lot of people don't modify it, but of course, they're taking a chance.
So you're doing it for the love of it, so you don't, it's like, you want to keep yourself safe and enjoy the car.
Well, yes, but my cars have shoulder belts.
Yeah, I'm saying you want to do that. You want
But,
to keep them
but yes,
yourself.
my objective, other than building a car that has no original parts, my objective is to have it as original and as authentic as possible.
But be safe.
But be safe, yes.
That's why we were lucky in the orange car.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we were lucky.
Yeah, well, the orange 37 Chevy that was totaled, we wound up in the McLaren Hospital ER that day, and what saved our lives was not just the lap belt, but the shoulder belt as well. That saved our lives.
What was your career and Doug's?
My career, I was an automotive engineer. I worked I started out working in tool and die shops as a machinist when I was very young, and I worked for GM at the GM Tech Center for a few years, and then I wound up at Ford Motor Company in Dearborn for a long time. That was my career.
You love cars, totally.
I do,
So cool.
amongst other things.
Your wife, your kids.
Pardon?
Doug's career?
Okay, I was in sales, automotive. When I got out of college, I worked at GMC Truck, and then I actually got into the retail car business, and I sold some parts to General Motors and Ford and so forth, but sales, automotive, always automotive.
Oh, you have
Yeah,
that
Carl.
too.
Could you describe the difference between restoring cars back to original, many parts originally, and the modifications? What is the difference in the market and the resale value?
Okay, for years, many years, a restored car to its original, authentic condition was more valuable than a street rod or a car that was modified. But now, it seems that the younger people prefer to take an old car and make it high-tech, like my 40 Ford, power everything, fuel injection, backup camera, etc., etc. Now, those old cars have a greater value than its authentic brother or sister.
But then you have to sort of gauge who did the work and how well the work was done, right? In other words,
Well, of course, the quality of work certainly dictates value as well, yes. Yes?
Can I ask my question again because I didn't hear the answer? Did you go to the Detroit Public Library?
Okay, did I what?
Did anybody go to the Detroit Public Library
To research
to do research?
anything.
They have a fantastic collection And, you really have to go, from the collection, I mean, they have a whole bunch of, what do you call it, those, what you get when you get a new.
Cabinets.
What?
Cabinets or
No,
files.
kids with a C, anyway, but I mean, I get very excited when I see this. You could build a car from the stuff that they have. And, I've been there and I've looked at the stuff and I really enjoy doing it. I mean, I have an interest in cars too, but, the guy next door to us built, from scratch, a Duesenberg.
Wow.
And then he worked on it for, I don't know how many years, and he sold it and put his kids through college.
Well, yes, I mean, a Duesenberg, that's a 7-figure car. That's from where I stand, that's a whole different world. I mean, and they're very rare.
It was beautiful. I mean, he had a place where he has liquor, and he couldn't do it, but in the back seat, he had, liquor. You could put other stuff in it too, but anyway, it was utterly fantastic.
Yeah.
inside.
Now, that's a car that you do not build into a resto mod,
No.
because you will take a $2.8 million authentic Duesenberg and make it worth $23,000. I mean, that's a car you don't modify. Any other questions?
Yeah, one for you, Gary. Along those same lines, if you picked up a car down in Pennsylvania and it needed a ton of work, is it more expensive to go authentic or resto mod? If you were just, if you had a budget, is it cheaper to build a car as a modern resto mod, or is it authentic?
Okay, it would be like my black 1940 Ford, which was an authentic restoration. It would be a lot less expensive to restore the car with its original componentry. But with my third 1940 Ford, the silver one, I had no componentry. There was nothing, so it was less expensive to build it the way it was.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Well, thank you very much for being here, and thanks for your attention.